Hello, dear learners. Welcome to the MOOC on Rural Development in India. Today, we will discuss one of the most foundational pillars of the Indian economy, that is, agriculture and its allied sectors and its role in rural economy. We have seen that despite rapid industrialization and expansion of service sectors, agriculture continues to remain the largest livelihood provider, basically in the rural areas. It is the basis of rural society and a critical determinant of food security, employment, cultural tradition, as well as national economic stability. We know that in India, more than 60% of rural households depend primarily on agriculture for their livelihood. Mahatma Gandhi's well known assertion that India lives in its villages still continues to hold deep relevance today, especially when we examine the role of the agriculture and allied sector in rural economy. Even after decades of economic transformation, rural India remains fundamentally shaped by agriculture as a source of livelihood, income generation, as well as economic stability. So, beyond an occupation, we can say agriculture is the fabric of rural society. That is, it is the key source of raw materials for industry. It is the backbone of food systems and a major contributor to export earnings. So, dear learner, in this lecture, we will cover the concept of agriculture and allied sector, the concept of rural economy, importance agriculture and allied sectors importance in rural economic development, their contribution to GDP, employment and national growth, various challenges faces by the agriculture and allied sectors in India, and government intervention and other reforms. So, what is agriculture? When we think of agriculture, we usually imagine a land and crop cultivation. However, agriculture is much more than just growing only one crops. So, it includes crop production along with soil water management, irrigation, drainage, then pest control, farm mechanization, various technology like seed technology, biotechnology, then sustainable and organic farming practices, farm management, agribusiness, and whole the market orientation and whole value chain development. So the role of agriculture has expanded beyond subsistence farming to include commercial cultivation, food processing, and integration with market as well as global supply chains. So agriculture thus today is increasingly knowledge driven, technology intensive and market oriented. Now coming to the allied sector. What is agriculture allied sectors? The allied sectors include those economic activities that are closely linked with agriculture but extend beyond crop production, and they play a very crucial role in diversifying the rural livelihood, and also they are helpful in stabilizing the income as well as they are also helpful in reducing the risk of crop failure and other related risks to agriculture and crop production. So this allied sector include livestock sector, which basically includes dairy, poultry, goats and pigs, then fisheries and aquaculture, forestry and agroforestry, horticulture, sericulture, apiculture, and mushroom cultivations. So we have already mentioned that this allied sector basically reduces the risks in agriculture. So let us explain this with two situations of farmer. First, let us consider farmer A, who basically depends only on crop cultivations, and thus he faces higher risk because income comes from a single seasonal activity. Drought, pest attack and price fall can wipe out the entire crop, and thus it leads to severe financial stress. Income is uncertain and received only once or twice in a year, and thus it makes the household highly vulnerable. Now, in the second situation, let us consider farmer B, who actually practices both crop farming along with other allied activities such as dairy, poultry, or fisheries, who has multiple income sources. So, even in case the crops fail, then what happens? The earnings will come from eggs, fish, or other livestock activities or other allied sectors. So, thus it ensures regular cash flow, reduces risk, and improve the family income stability. So, if we see this both situation in the context of rural economy, farmer A contributes mainly to food grain production but remains economically fragile. But farmer B not only grow crops, but he also strengthened the rural economy by generating year-round income, creating local employment, supporting value chain, and keeping money circulating within the village. So does this diversification of agriculture through allied activities, which actually makes the farmers more resilient and enhances the overall strength of their rural economy. So now coming to we have already mentioned about rural economy. So what is actually rural economy? The rural economy basically refers to economic system and livelihood activities that take place in rural areas, primarily driven by the agriculture and allied sector. I have already mentioned the allied sectors such as livestock, fishery, forestry, etc. But it also includes other rural industries like handicraft, services, service trade, and other small-scale cottage industry, which support the village livelihood. And this the rural economy is characterized by high dependence on natural resources, traditional occupation, and labor-intensive activity. So now let us have a look to the contribution of agriculture to the rural economy. First of all, how this agriculture and allied sector contributes to the GDP. So you can see in the table that over the 70 years, agriculture's GDP share dropped from 52% to 19%, which shows a structural transformation, and slightly lower at about 17.18% in 2023-24. So this pattern refers the classic trajectory of structural transformation, where the relative contribution of agriculture declines not because the sector is shrinking, but because non-farm sectors, especially service sectors, are expanding at a much faster pace. However, this agriculture continues to be a significant contributor to the rural economy, and it drives the food security, raw material supply, and income generation in rural household. The allied sectors, that is dairy, fishery, livestock, and horticulture, have gained prominence during the decades, providing higher value addition and often more stable income flows than only crop cultivation. Then the next is employment patterns and the rural workforce. So in the contrast to the above discussion of GDP, to the modest decline in GDP share, employment in agriculture exhibit only a slow and uneven decline. The workforce engaged in agriculture and allied sector decreased from 72% in the year 1951 to around 45% in the year 2022, with a recent estimate for 23 and 24, that is around 46.1% engaged in the sector. And thus this reduction indicates that the rural people remains heavily dependent on farming and allied activities for their livelihood, despite the sector's comparatively lower contribution to national income. So for millions of rural households, we can say that agriculture still act as the primary occupations, particularly when non-farm employment remains limited or uncertain. So next is the food security. food security is one of the most important area. So where agriculture is central to ensure national food security. India's journey from a food deficit nation in the year 1950 to a food surplus economy today is a direct result of agricultural growth and technological advancement such as the Green Revolution. Now, the role of agriculture in industrial development. We all know that there is a linkage between agriculture and industry. And this role of agriculture in the industry can be highlighted as supplier of waste goods to the industrial sector, provider of rural materials to agro-based industry such as sugar, textile, jute, etc., and generator of agricultural income that creates demand for industrial product. Say for example, many of our small-scale cottage industry like handloom, weaving, oil crushing, rice husking, which basically depends upon agriculture for their raw materials. So thus together these industries accounts for around 50% income generated in the manufacturing sector of India. Thus in recent years, the importance of food processing industry is being increasingly recognized both for generation of income as well as creation of employment. Now coming to the rural development and poverty alleviation. So agriculture drives the rural market, infrastructure development, irrigation expansion, credit services, and employment. So higher agricultural growth, thus growth rates correlate strongly with the rural poverty reduction. Then the next is export contributions, how these sectors contributes to the foreign exchange or other trade. So agricultural products such as tea, coffee, spices, rice, cotton, others marine product, fruits and vegetable constitute a major portion of Indian exports baskets. So agriculture contribution for foreign exchange earnings remains high, particularly through high value agri-food chain. It is also helpful in phasing out economic depression. So what is this? During the depression, you can say the example of COVID-19. During any depression, any industrial production can be stopped or reduced, but agricultural production continues as it produces basic necessity of life, that is food. Thus, it continues to create effective demand even during adverse condition of the economy. So, next is improving the rural welfare. So, it is well known that rural economy basically depends on agriculture and allied occupation in a underdeveloped country. The rising agricultural surplus caused by increasing agricultural production and productivity, which tends to improve social welfare, particularly in rural areas. The living standard of rural masses rises and they start consuming nutritious diets including eggs, millets, ghee and other fruits and vegetables. So extension of market for industrial output as a result of agricultural progress, there will be extension of. So next is extension of market for industrial output. So what happened? As a result of agricultural progress, there will be extension of market for industrial product. So increase in agricultural productivity leads to increase in the income of rural population, which in turn leads to more demand for industrial product, thus development of industrial sectors. Now let us have a discussion of agriculture and diversification. As we have already discussed above that agriculture diversification with others allied activities reduces the risk and market failure, and this has been witnessed through a profound transformation in recent years. India's rural economy has increasingly shifted from a crop-centric system to multi-sectoral agri-economy, including livestock, fishery, horticulture, food processing, etc. So, government initiative like the Animal Husbandry Infrastructure Development Fund have strengthened rural livestock enterprises by supporting dairy and meat processing, feed plants, and breed improvement. Similarly, fisheries supported by PMMSY and the FIDF fund have propelled India to become the world's third largest fish producer in with 17.54 million tons in the year 2022-23. Similarly, the food processing sector, which is a crucial link between farms and the market, who is basically boosting the employment and raising India's agri-food export to 46.44 USD billion. Together, these structural shift and targeted interventions are reducing rural income risk, generating year-round employment, encouraging high-value production, and strengthening village-based enterprise. So, we have seen that along with diversification or along with only crop cultivation, if you go for the other allied activities, it can reduces the risks of crop failure as well as market. So next, coming to the some challenges that are facing by agriculture and allied sectors. Then first one is, as we all know, that the land fragmentations, that is in India, around the dominance of small and marginal farmers over 86%, which basically limits the economic of scale and profitability. Then next is inadequate irrigation. Only about 45% of agricultural land is irrigated, which basically makes the sectors vulnerable to climate variability. Then another one is climate change, which is another issue causing floods, drought, erratic rainfall, then heat waves and pest attacks, and thus it affect the overall productivity. Then next is the low productivity. This remains lower than the global standard due to outdated farming practices, less involvement of higher technology, limited mechanization, as well as poor input quality. Then the next is market inefficiency, that is price volatility, inadequate market access, limited MSP coverage, and dependence on intermediaries reduce farmers' income. Another most important challenges is post-harvest losses. In India, around 50 to 20% of fruits and vegetable loss due to insufficient storage and lack of cold chain infrastructure. We lost around 15 to 20% of fruits and vegetable during transportation. So these are certain challenges. Now, what actually government initiative in promoting the agriculture and allied sectors for development of rural economy? So recognizing the importance of agriculture in the rural economy, the government of India has initiated several schemes to support farmers and enhance their livelihood. And these programs aim to increase agricultural production, ensure remunerative returns, and provide income support to farmers. So some of the major schemes like Pradhan Mantri Kisan Samman Nidhi, this initiative provide direct income support to the farmer. Then second one is Pradhan Mantri Kisan Man Dhan Yojana, PMKMY. It is a pension scheme that aims to provide financial security to farmer after their retirement. Then another one is Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana, that is restructured as weather-based crop insurance, and this scheme protect farmers from crop loss due to natural calamities by providing insurance coverage. Then another one is modified interest subvention schemes. So what is this? This program helps farmers access credit at lower interest rates, and it makes it easier for them to invest in agriculture. Then another one is Agriculture Infrastructure Fund. This initiative aims to improve infrastructure for agricultural activity such as cold storage, warehouses, and processing units, fostering the growth of agro-based industry in rural areas. Then formation and promotion of farmer producer organization, that is FPO. This is one of the most important program that encourages collective farming practices, allowing farmers to pool resources and strengthen their bargaining power at the market. The National Beekeeping and Honey Mission and Par Drop More Crop scheme, which is basically aimed at promoting water use efficiency, and these schemes encourages the adoption of micro irrigation technology in agriculture. Then submission on agricultural mechanization, soil health and fertility scheme, national food security and nutrition mission. So this food security and nutrition mission focuses on enhancing the production of staple foods, ensuring food security for the rural population. So these are some scheme government intervention in case of promoting the agriculture and allied sectors and also to improve the rural economy. So from the above discussion, we can say that agriculture and allied sector remains indispensable to rural India. So they ensure food security, they generate employment, they support rural development and drive industrial growth. So from the above discussion, it is clear that agriculture and allied sector remain indispensable to rural India. They ensure food security, they generate employment, they support rural development, and they also drive the industrial growth. While structural transformation has reduced agricultural share of GDP, its livelihood significance remain unparalleled. Therefore, strengthening agriculture through technological modernization, market reform, diversification, and sustainability measures is essential for rural prosperity and national economic resilience. So, dear learners, with this I conclude today's lecture. Thank you.